Good morning and welcome. I'm Celeste and this is my FlossTube channel, Celeste Creates. And today is another QuiltyTube edition, QuiltyTube number 3. So I know that several of you have been asking if I was going to come back and do another QuiltyTube. And I have had every intention of getting back here to do that, and it just hasn't happened between the holidays and recovering from the holidays and a crazy February. I have just not been able to get around to that, but I'm here today and I'm really excited to share with you my quilting. And so today I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the quilting that I have been working on, and then I'm going to do a little bit of a designer spotlight, so that'll be a lot of fun. And also I would love to hear in your comments below, what would you like to see more of here on a QuiltyTube video? What did you enjoy? What are you hoping to hear more about? So quilting was my first love, and I have been quilting for, I'm trying to think, my oldest son just turned 20, and I got my sewing machine and made my very first quilt when he was 9 months old. So I have been in some form or fashion quilting for about 20 years. And my mom taught me how to sew when I was little, and I didn't do a whole lot with it. I made a few pieces of clothing, and it just didn't really, making clothing didn't excite me. But somehow I learned about quilting, and I got some books at the library, and I got a sewing machine, and I took a trip to the quilt store that was local at the time, and I got started making quilts. And I've truly made hundreds over these 20 years, and most of them are scattered about my house, but I've sold some. I have gifted many. So it was my first love. Returning to cross stitch has been a really, really fun addition, and I'm so glad I get to do both of them. So anyway, I am super excited to do this with you today. Thank you for joining me. It's fun to share my loves of quilting and cross stitch, and I would say my other love is reading. So who knows, maybe we'll get a booktube here eventually. But welcome. I hope this is enjoyable for you, and let's get started. So I'm standing up today because if I want to show you some of the quilts, I'm going to have to step back and show you those quilts. And even so, you won't be able to see full quilts very well. They're just hard to show, especially the bigger ones. But I will try to insert either in the video itself or at the end pictures of the whole quilt laid out for you to see. So first I want to start with what I've been working on lately. And I have had a finish, and then another one that I have been working on. So my finish has been one that's been in progress for a while. This is a quilt made using the pineapple papers from It's So Emma at Fat Quarter Shop. And I have all the different papers up here, and these are the 6-inch pineapple papers to do paper piecing with. And I saw this quilt, I guess it was sometime last year, on Fig Tree Quilt's blog, and she was introducing it with her Catalina fabric line, and I fell in love. It was just so beautiful. I love it when Joanna adds these really beautiful blues into her fabric lines, and so that just caught my attention right then, and I knew I wanted to make this quilt. So it had been a little while since I'd done some paper piecing, but I knew I could do it, and it's a lot of fun. So these are the pineapple papers, and they come in 6 and 12 inch, and there's several different kinds. I'll show you some other ones here in a minute. But these are the papers, and it's really kind of a sew by number. And there's a method to it, and it's really a lot of fun, and it gives you some very exact blocks. Because honestly, I think the pineapple block is a difficult block to make because you're working on a bias in so many pieces of fabric, and there's a lot of stretch that can happen. So using these pineapple papers was really helpful. So using those, and fabric from Joanna's line, I had made 20 pineapple blocks. So I think you can see most of it there. So you cut certain sizes of strips, and then you start sewing and flipping and sewing and flipping, and it's a lot of fun. So I made 20 of these beautiful, beautiful blocks. Let's see if I can show a few more up here. And look how perfect they come out. They just come out beautifully when you're using this paper piecing method. I love it. So I had finished those blocks not too long ago, maybe before Christmas, and so they've been sitting, and finally over the last couple of weeks I decided to start piecing them together. And so for this particular block, I know that the blog post about this quilt had said it was better to go ahead and sew them with the sashing and the posts with the paper still on them, because there could be a good amount of stretch with this particular block. So I assembled all the blocks with the sashing. Love that beautiful yellow. And then, I think it was yesterday, I came back, and these would have all had the papers still on the back. And I removed all the papers from the 20 blocks and gave it another press, and now it's ready for quilting. And so one of the tricks here with paper piecing is when you're sewing on the lines. I can show you another block here. Hold on. Here's something else I'll show you in just a minute. These are my log cabins. But when you're sewing along the lines, you're sewing on the paper. Your paper is sitting up like this on the machine. So you're sewing like this. So you're truly sewing on the paper and on the lines. And one of the tricks for being able to get the papers off really easily later is that you shorten your stitch length a good bit. And this makes, it just makes a closer perforation, so that when you do go to remove all those papers, they're going to come off really relatively easily. It should not be hard. It's a little time consuming, especially for this one, but they come off really easily. So this is my pineapple Catalina quilt. And I am hoping next week I have backing and binding. So this is the backing, which is another print from the Catalina line. And then I believe, I can move around a good bit. This is going to be my binding for the quilt. So hopefully we're on school spring break next week, and hopefully I can get this quilted and out, because it's such a pretty spring, summer type quilt. So while I'm talking about that, I will move on to the other paper piece project I have right now. This particular project is also done with the foundation papers, the paper piecing from It's So Emma, which is, you know, like the pattern and maybe notions type division of Fat Quarter Shop in Kimberly. These are the log cabin papers. I also have the economy block and courthouse steps. And so these were done in, again, a 6 and a 12 inch, and I bought the 6-inch papers to make log cabins. Log cabins are easier blocks to make, but there's just a lot of fun to do paper piecing. I really enjoy it. So here's what the papers look like. So you can see they're much simpler, whereas the pineapple blocks went up to 20 something strips. These go much faster because you're only going up to 13. So there's just fewer steps in the sew, press, routine of actually doing the paper piece blocks. So what I decided to do, I had ordered 2 of these. These are one of her more recent lines, Joanna Figueroa from Fig Tree Quilts. I hope I said that right. This is her Figs and Shirtings line. Love the colors. This blue that just kills me every time. And then to mix in all, I mean, we've got the gray, the black, the blues, all the favorites. They're just beautiful. I love honey buns. So I had ordered 2 of these honey buns when this line first came out and decided I really wanted to make a paper piece log cabin quilt with those. And so, pause. This is just a sad little box that I still use for layering stuff in. So I separated out all the honey bun strips by color. They're pretty. These are all my low volume here, my white and low volume. And so really what I'm doing is just picking a strip of color and a strip of white. And sometimes, you know, some of these grays may get used as a low volume at some point, but you know, picking a low volume and then one of the darker colors and making my little, it's real easy to trim into the jelly roll into the pieces you need for the log cabin, and making these log cabin blocks out of them. And they're really fun and they do go a whole lot faster. And so I'm excited to get back to these. I wanted to finish the pineapple quilt before I really went to town on these. Now, like I said, I have 2 honey buns. This is the second one I haven't unwrapped yet. So I'm going to see, you know, how I like this quilt once I have 1 honey bun worth of log cabins done, and we'll see how much I want to do. So you can see here, again, there's the papers. And then here is a red one. A black. I love that. And the orange or pumpkin colors. Oh, and a pretty blue. Love that. Love these vintage fabrics, just how they just make my heart sing. So pretty. So now that I finished the top of that pineapple quilt, I definitely want to get back to these log cabins because they're really fun to do, and I really enjoy the paper piecing. So look for me to be finishing a few more of those and putting a quilt together for that. I just think that'll be a lot of fun. There's a lot of different arrangements you can do with log cabin blocks for a quilt top, and so that'll be fun to play with when I get them all done. So, all right, let me show you what else is coming up. Okay, so like I said, next week is our spring break from our homeschool, and I'm really hoping to get a few quilts quilted. One is that pineapple quilt that I just showed you. I've probably got, I have 2 more in the queue here that I'd like to quilt next week, and I do think I can get it done. Probably got another 5 or 6 quilts that need to be quilted, but I'm not there yet. I don't have backing for all of them, so these are the ones that I know I can get done. So one of them is a Bonnie and Camille quilt that I put together, not real sure when, been a couple years. First, let me show you the backing. Isn't that gorgeous? Ooh, I love that. That pink print with the reds and the oranges, it's gorgeous. So this will be the backing for this sweet quilt that I made. This is a really fun little pattern by another favorite quilt designer of mine. She has an Etsy shop, and Sweet Jane Quilts. I think that's it. I have her books. I have some of her patterns off of her Etsy shop. I will run that across the bottom here and also try and link it below, but I believe it's Sweet Jane Quilts. Her name is Sue Fowl. And this is one of her patterns from her Etsy shop. I'll also put that down below. And I can't even remember if this was a layer cake or charm packs. That's how long ago it's been. So I can show you little bits of it here. Really simple to put together. Lots of fun. So this is done with a line of Bonnie and Camille fabric, which I also can't remember the name. Oh yeah, this was Good Life. This was called The Good Life. And so anyway, that's one I want to get pinned and quilted this coming week. Then I have another quilt which I'm super excited about. This is a quilt pattern called Chamomile, and I really should have gotten these patterns out. Can't think who it's by either. Once again, I'll run it down here and put it in the comment section below, but the quilt itself was called Chamomile. And my friend Casey and I made this together last year, and we kind of did our own little quilt along, and we kind of did a little portion each week and got the quilt done. And I had ordered backing and have just kind of been waiting to quilt it. So this is my backing. This is a Lori Holt fabric. I love that pink. Oh, so pretty. And this is from Lori's fabric line called Granny Chic that came out recently. Sort of recently. I can't keep up. They go so fast. The designers are always putting out new things, beautiful things. And so this is Granny Chic. So that's my backing. And then here is the quilt that was all done with Lori Holt's Granny Chic fabric and a couple of Riley Blake confetti cottons. And this one is too big. I'm not going to be able to get much of this in there. She made these beautiful 16 patch blocks. Look at that. And then I chose to use this pale pink confetti cotton and this darker pink. And then you made this beautiful striped sashing, and then these 9 patches for the posts. And I just love this quilt. And so this is probably going to be the first one I get quilted next week. It's the biggest one, and I really want to have this out for springtime. So again, I will leave you all the information below, and I'll take a picture of this and either insert it or put it at the end. But again, this is called Chamomile, and this is done with Lori Holt's Granny Chic fabric. So I'm going to get that quilted this week. I have big plans. I better get pinning. All right. So those are the things that I have been working on and that I want to get done. And now I think, oh no, I have one more plan. Hold on. Let's see. So my friend Casey and I and another friend are going to do another quilt along like we did with this chamomile quilt. Am I wearing thread? I'm usually wearing thread. I have not bought any Bonnie and Camille fabric for quite a while. I like it. It's beautiful. I've made many quilts with Bonnie and Camille fabric, but it is usually just not the top of my list lately. But their latest fabric line that came out is so beautiful, and so I ordered the, and I am so bad with names this morning. My goodness gracious. Let me see. I can find a selvage here. I know y'all are screaming at me and I can't find a selvage, and y'all are just gonna have to really read the notes after you're done with this video. Hello something. Anyway, it wasn't even really the, is it Shine On? Yeah, there we go. Shine On is the name of this fabric line. And I love the fabrics. They're beautiful, and that wasn't really what caught me. It was actually the quilt itself that's made from these fabrics. I'll insert a picture right here because I don't have the color picture of the pattern. So I'll insert that here and you can see that. And I just love that rainbow effect of the pattern. And so that is called, the pattern itself is called Hello Sunshine, my black and white pattern. And I didn't buy the whole fabric line. I only bought the fat quarters that I needed to make that quilt. And then I bought some white background fabric. And so I, hopefully we're going to start this quilt along soon, and I'll be making a beautiful quilt. And I just know that'll be gorgeous for summer. I love all those bright colors, so that's on my plans too. I've got a lot of work to do. All right, next up is going to be my designer spotlight. Okay, so the designer spotlight that I chose to do today, and I don't know, it might be the only one I ever do, because she's my very favorite, is all about Lori Holt from Bee in My Bonnet. I feel like there's been quite a buzz lately about, I know Liz from Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch, and I believe Nicola from Bumble Stitches have been doing a project bag-along and kind of challenging everybody to use a Lori Holt block to make a bag, and those have turned out so cute. And I love watching Lori's floss tubes. Her cross stitching is it's just amazing. I just think between all the things that she can do, I'm continually amazed. And I would just love to be a fly on the wall in Lori's studio for a day. And actually, I'd like to be in the studio in person, not just a fly. Anyway, recently she has done some different quilting tutorials and videos too. The tour of her studio, of her sewing room, is fabulous. She did a tour of her cross stitch supplies recently, so lots of fun. You can find Lori Holt on FlossTube, YouTube, and she is just a precious person, and I love her to death, and I love everything she does, and I have done so much of it. Lori Holt fabrics and Lori Holt quilts are probably my very favorite, and I will probably always buy that quarter bundle of pretty much every line that she puts out. I know there's been some backgrounds and some basics that maybe I haven't always gotten, but pretty much every fabric line that she puts out, I have to go back and see you know, what was the first line I really bought, but it's been a long time, and I will buy a fat quarter bundle. So here's my most recent purchase, and I don't remember if I've shown this before, but you get to see it again. So this is Lori's Flea Market fabric line, and it's just gorgeous. She is doing a quilt along right now with these beautiful applique flowers, and I didn't decided not to do that one this time, but I did get my fat quarter bundle. Now I don't know if this is going to get separated, and that's my Lori Holt fabric over there, and there's a little bit more somewhere else. I don't know if this is going to get divided up and just put into my Lori Holt color groups, or if I'm going to make something. I just haven't decided, and so for right now it sits over here on my shelf and I can look at it. So that's part of the fun. So definitely, you know, this is beautiful. Look at all those colors. This is her Flea Market. So I'm going to be doing something with that because I love those fabrics. So I have been making Lori Holt blocks and quilts for a long time, and so what I want to show you first is my collection of books that I have, and I think I've bought most of them. I think lately there have been a few of the smaller ones that I haven't gotten, but the books that I do have are ones that I use over and over and over again. They are just a staple in my quilting, really. They're a go-to for me. And so I'm going to share those with you first, and then I would like to do a quilt parade and show you all my Lori Holt quilts that I've made. I think all of them. I keep finding ones that I've forgotten about. Anyway. Alright, let's talk Lori Holt books. So this I don't think was the first one that she put out, but it was actually the first one that I bought. And this is called Great Granny Squared. And she shows you how to make this main quilt in the back, as well as making pillows or smaller quilts. Her books are my absolute favorite, partly because, well, they're perfect, and you can, I have learned more about piecing quilt blocks than from Lori than anybody else, and so her books are fabulous, and I mean, I could sit here and page through her books forever. They're just filled with these beautiful, beautiful photographs. I know Lori shoots these in her home with the people from It's So Emma and Fat Quarter Shop, and just does a marvelous job. And so I could actually sit here and page through her books and just look at the pictures all afternoon. They're a work of art. They're a work of art and so much fun, and I love all things vintage. So I will show you in a bit, but I have made this cover quilt, this great granny squared quilt. And so this was the first one I bought, and I love it. It's a really fun block to make. I really enjoyed making those. This, I believe, was her first book, or at least the first that I know of. And I bought this one next. This is called Quilty Fun. And this one is beautiful, spiral bound. I've had it forever. It's, you know, beaten up and loved. And again, it is just a gorgeous, this is the cover quilt. And I haven't made that quilt, but I have made parts of it. And used these blocks for different things. And so this was another one I bought, and I love it very much. The next one I bought, and I think this was just when I went, well, I was already crazy for Lori Holt, but even crazier. My favorite book of hers of all time is Farm Girl Vintage. My favorite. So I have made this cover quilt with the 6-inch blocks. And it is hanging over my sofa downstairs, and I will insert a picture of that here. I love this quilt. I love all these blocks, and I go to these again and again and again and again. So, you know, I've made minis out of like the strawberry, and I've made a chicken, so I've used these blocks all over the place. I've done a Christmas pillow with this. I've used the pumpkins. I've used the cherries for a mini. So just, and then even these blocks that aren't picture blocks, but just these traditional, the courthouse steps, I've used them over and over and over again. I even used, where's the postage stamp? Whoa, where is it? Right there. That's the postage stamp block, and I have made a small quilt with that. I would use my 1.5-inch squares as leaders and enders, and I created a quilt with just these scrappy postage stamp blocks. So this is absolutely one of my very favorite books ever, ever, ever. Again, pictures are gorgeous. So my recommendation, of course, is that if you have not bought one of Lori's books, this is my first one for you to get. I have made several things out of here. I made a variation. Oops. You can see, because I took notes. I'll kind of cover that up. But I took notes, and I made a variation on this quilt that I'll show you. As I was making the cover quilt, I would make these blocks. Anyway, fabulous book. I love it. I love it. I love it. Go run and get it. After that, actually, I have a binder as well that I kind of made a copy of the front of the book. And this binder has some of my other PDF patterns. So I've made this quilt, the Farm Fresh, and just some other, I'll just show you the actual patterns here. I haven't made this one, but isn't she adorable? And so this just has some of my PDFs that I've bought from It's So Emma. You know, sometimes you could buy a single block. So I've been doing this for a long time, so I have quite a collection. After that, I bought her spelling bee book, and again, I've used this. I've done some of the picture blocks. I've used the letters. It's so much fun. I made a baby quilt. Actually, I made 2 baby quilts for a friend of ours that had twin boys, and I did the little cars. It was so much fun. So again, you can sit here and look at the pictures in the book forever. I mean, how cute is that? So much fun. So I love that book. Another one, Vintage Christmas. There's bunches of blocks on here that are Christmas themed, that can be used for Christmas or be used for other things. But then what I love about Lori's books is that intermingled with, you know, things that are very, you know, traditional Christmas, you know, the nativity or the stocking. There are these more traditional quilt blocks that can be used to make all kinds of quilts. So I have made a bunch of these. I haven't made the whole quilt, but I've made a bunch of the different blocks for different things. And then someday, real soon, I'm gonna have to do this. One of my favorite things in this book are the way she uses some of these blocks for 2-color quilts. I'm definitely gonna be making one of those. So beautiful. So that's Vintage Christmas. Beautiful book. I love them. They lay so well. You can flip through them. And then the second one, or not the second one, the last one I have is Farm Girl Vintage 2. And I'm in the process of making this cover quilt. And it's a lot of fun. I love all these blocks. And again, I use these things over and over. I have used her idea for the gingham quilt. It was a lot of fun to make. I did that for someone. So many ideas, so much fun. I've made, you know, one of these little pillows, pin pillow, kind of a sewing pillow. So in Lori's books, not only are there the quilts, but there's all kinds of ways that she gives you to use the beautiful, all the blocks for making different things. So let me show you another thing. I don't know if you can see it from here, but this is where my Lori Holt books live. I don't put them away in a cabinet. They stay out because I love them so much. Another type of quilt that Lori started showing us how to do on her blog and doing some really neat, she calls them her So Simple Shapes, are these beautiful applique quilts. And I've made several of those, and I really, really love making them. And I have one I think I need to finish. But if you haven't seen, I have bought most of Lori's So Simple Shape sets, and I use them all the time, not just for an applique quilt, but I find all kinds of uses for these So Simple Shapes. And so, you know, I started with her first set, and you can see I have them organized. I found these little binders at Target. I don't even know if they still have them. It was forever ago. And these small, you know, pockets. And I have my shapes sorted into these binders. I still need another binder. So these are called So Simple Shapes, and Lori teaches you how to use these shapes with your fabric and with sewing interfacing, real lightweight sewing interfacing to create her shapes, which can then be appliqued to create amazing quilts. And so as we get into the quilt parade here, I'll be able to show you some of those. So you ready to see some quilts? Okay, so you're gonna have to pardon me as I reach for quilts. I hate to pause every single time I do that, but I know floss tubers will often say what a mess they make when they're filming a floss tube. Well, let me tell you, when you're QuiltyTube might be worse, because I got a bunch over here to show you, and they're in a pile. So what got me, what made me want to do this Lori Holt quilt parade, like I said, I feel like, you know, I've been hearing a lot more about Lori out in the floss tube world, and I wanted to be able to show you, I was thinking, well, I'll show you some quilts that I actually have out and that I'm using right now. So some quilts I have kind of stay in one place, and then I have, of course, fall quilts and a lot of Christmas quilts, both fall and Christmas. I have a lot of those. Not as many Easter. I have one Valentine. But among my quilts that aren't really a theme or a season, I rotate those out in our family room. And so there's usually one on the back of the recliner, there's one on the back of my stitching chair, there's usually one on the end of each sofa. We have two sofas. So I move those quilts around, and so I thought, well, I'm going to show you what I have out right now. When I thought about that, I thought two of them were Lori Holt quilts. And so I thought, I'm going to do a Lori Holt quilt extravaganza. So here we go. This was the one that I had pulled to show you, and then, you know, got going on. This is my baby chick quilt. You see it? Again, I will put a big picture of this. So this is the baby chick block from Lori's first Farm Girl vintage book. And this was actually, this is a quilt in that book, and gosh, quite a few years ago, I did a quilt block exchange, like a sewing, we were all over the country, I don't know what you call it, not a quilt-along, but it was a quilt block exchange. And so it was my month, and I said I would love everybody to make me baby chick blocks. And so that's what I got. I think there's 2 in here that I made for myself. I know always these are from my friend Casey because she loves purple. And so I got these blocks, and then I took all my scraps of pinks, whatever I could find. I've got my 2.5-inch strips. I've got all kinds of stuff. And I made this baby chick quilt, and this comes out for spring and Easter. And even my back is totally scrappy. My binding is scrappy. I love doing a scrappy binding. So this is my baby chick quilt, and I adore it. And so when I was decorating my little chick display, which you can see on Instagram, I decided I'd make a 12-inch baby chick quilt block this year, and I have that hanging on my quilt stand and all my other cute chicks. So again, I use these blocks over and over and over again. So I got that, made those. The other Lori Holt quilt that I have out right now is this one. And this is the one I was just showing you that I did a variation on this quilt that was in the Farm Girl Vintage 1 book. So as I made all the 6-inch blocks for the quilt that's hanging over my Farm Girl Vintage quilt that's hanging over the sofa that I showed you, I had picked certain blocks from there that I would also make a 12-inch version of with this beautiful blue background. And so I made this blue background quilt, and this is one of my ones that's out right now on the end of the sofa. And we use these quilts. We are always using these quilts. Nothing is off limits. I mean, yeah, don't pull something off the wall and use it, but hey. And so these are the blocks that I made. I chose 12. And I did each block, the background was with this beautiful blue Riley Blake solid, and I cannot remember what color it is, but it was just beautiful. And so it was so much fun to make these blocks on a bigger scale and use all these bright colors. And then I did a red border, and I backed it in this brown Lori Holt fabric. So that one's out right now, and I absolutely love it. So then, I'm trying to think, I think I'll save those. I did have the privilege of going on a quilt retreat that Lori was holding one year, and got to spend time with Lori and some fantastic people. And I think we were the first ones that got to put together this quilt. This has a lot of treasured memories for me. This is called Farm Fresh. Again, it's so big, I can't even, it's a big quilt. So it says Farm Fresh, and it's a little stand, a roadside stand, selling all sorts of canned goods. And so we used, again, I'll insert a big picture. We used 6-inch blocks, Farm Girl Vintage 6-inch blocks, and then we made these jars. And so, you know, there's my jar of tomatoes, there's honey, peach preserves. Let's see, this is harder than you think. Floss tubes are way easier. Peas, blueberry, apple, all those. And then they're on a really cute little farm stand. So that was super fun to make. Use this cute khaki Waverly solid. I get those at Walmart sometimes, and they're really nice for the background. And then I backed it in this adorable strawberry. I think I found that at Joann's. So that is a real treasure for me. I love it. It's big. It hangs up on the wall. It's big. So then, let me show you some others that I've made. One in particular that I finished recently, and I may have shown you this one. This is using the scrappy maple leaf block from her Farm Girl Vintage book. And so I made 16 of these scrappy maple leaf blocks with fabric from my stash and a brown Swiss dot background. And I had a lot of fun making those. So I put this one out for fall, and I have no idea, I think I got that at a local quilt shop, the backing. Orange 30s type vintage fabric. And so this one is out for fall, but this is from her Farm Girl Vintage, this block. A couple falls ago, I made another Lori Holt quilt that uses, I think this was before her Farm Girl Vintage too. So this was from her Farm Girl Vintage book, as well as some of the PDFs that I have. And I made another fall quilt. So this was just my idea. I didn't have a pattern for this. I just did, this is from her Farm Girl Vintage. I did a red barn in the center and embroidered it with some 2.5 inch squares. And then I figured out how to, you know, mathematically make it work. But I did, how many? Did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 12. I did 12 12-inch blocks of Lori's, and so I've got like an apple. These are all kind of fall themed: a sunflower, a crow, patchwork acorn, 2 corn instead of corn and tomatoes, the little sprouts, I forget what those are called, pumpkin, turkey, maple leaf, what else? Here's a chicken or a rooster, a zinnia, and a slice of pie with a fork. So that's a really fun fall quilt, and I usually hang this one up on the stairs during the fall, and I just love it. This I backed with some fabric, some scraps from my stash, but also this fabric was in my mom's fabric stash. She had a little bit left, and I got that after she passed away. So that was really a fun treasure. So I made that. Then I believe it was last summer, was it this past, was it COVID summer? I don't remember. But Lori did a fun quilt along on her blog, and it was using blocks from the vintage Christmas book, but not the Christmas ones, and we made a patriotic quilt. And so here's half of it. I did mine in all Lori Holt pinks, reds, aquas, navies, and just assorted low volume backgrounds. So this was super fun. We made 12 blocks and sashed them. I sashed them in scrappy navy strips. So fun. I just love a scrappy quilt. Lori made a scrappy quilt lover out of me. So the scrappier, the better. I just love being able to pull my fabrics from here, from my Lori Holt stash, and just putting them together and have fun. It's my favorite kind of quilt to do. So I love this one. Love the colors. So we put that one out for a patriotic holiday. I've got a stack over here. Okay, pause. Let me show you something else. I've said I've done a bunch of quilts, kind of like that chick, the single chick, where I'll do a 12-inch block and then hang it downstairs or make a pillow out of it. So I use her 12-inch blocks all the time. I use her 6-inch blocks sometimes for project bags. So again, I just go to it all the time. Here is a block from Farm Girl Vintage, the first Farm Girl Vintage. I forget if this is called Apron Strings. But again, this is a scrappy table runner, and this sits on my dining room table. And it's just every color you could imagine. This is a super fun block to make. I loved making this one. And I just love it. That's me. So that's a table runner that I made using a block from her Farm Girl Vintage book. And then this one is really fun. And I know there's some others, pillows and small things that I just couldn't find them all to show you at this point. But this is a table runner from her Farm Girl Vintage book. And she has it done real cute farm colors. But I had found a little bit of leftover Halloween fabric. I'm not a huge Halloween decorator, but some of it I do think is fun. And this was a Halloween fabric that I had loved, and I happened upon some that was still for sale. And so I made a table runner. And so you've got a big, I can't count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that a 36 patch there in the center? And then the ends, on 2 ends, you make 2 barns. So there's a barn. It was really fun to like fussy cut that cute little bit for the window there. Here's another one. So I made this, and I think I quilted this one with, you can see it there with spiders. So I do my own free motion quilting on my machine, which is right here, here at home. And that's for another video, but I can give you some tips and tricks and things I've learned over the years. So that's a really fun one. Again, that's using stuff from her Farm Girl Vintage book and making it fun for the holiday. So the next thing I want to show you are the 2, have I only done 2? No, there's 3. 2? Of her applique quilts that I have done. I thought I made 3. No, I did make 3. The third one is the Christmas applique quilt that I made. Oh, and there's another Christmas one. Sorry, it goes on and on. The Christmas applique quilt I showed in QuiltyTube number 2 when I did a parade of all my Christmas quilts. So if you want to see that one, you can go back there because I really didn't want to pull all my Christmas quilts out today. So I've done 3 complete of her applique quilts. And that was one of them, the Christmas. And then this is the first one I did when I was learning how to applique with Lori Holt. And I just love this. This is hard, people. So this was made using her first set of So Simple shapes, and I had so much fun doing this one. And the name of this fabric line is escaping me at the moment. If Lori's watching this, she's going to be like... So anyway, I'll put it across the bottom or in the notes. But this was a quilt along on her blog. So I made all these flower blocks, and then we bordered them, and I just love this quilt. And so this is hanging up on a quilt ladder downstairs. It's so much fun. And I will look up what that's called. Oh, this one was a lot of fun too. This is a big quilt. I don't even think I can hold it up all. I can hold up half of it because it turned out really big. This was done with her So Cherry 2. We learned how to make the Dresdens with her So Cherry 2 fabric. So Cherry 2. It was 2. And then we appliqued, we made the Dresdens are appliqued on. We made the fruit with another set of So Simple shapes and appliqued all of that on. And then we made these cute little gingham flowers and appliqued those on. It's got a super cute border. Love it. Don't forget, I will add full pictures of this somewhere. Maybe here. Cherries, blueberries. Oh my goodness, this is so hard. Another strawberry, pears. Oh, that's cute. There's a lime, an apple, pear. Anyway, Lori Holt shows you how to do these, and you can machine applique them or you can hand applique. I'm not a fan of hand applique. I won't say I won't do it because I also said I'd never cross stitch again, and well, you can see where that got me if you watch my last two. But I did. I said I'll never cross stitch. It requires way too much concentration. So now I just don't say those things anymore, and so I am not a fan right now of hand applique, but who knows. So I applique mine by machine. I do not use a blanket stitch to applique. I don't know if you can see it, but I just use a straight stitch around the edges, and that works best for me. I can keep it where I want it. It doesn't show up as much as like a blanket or a zigzag stitch. And then of course I quilted this one myself. So I love that. All right, now, I think this is kind of funny if I can show you real quick. There's the stack. Okay, the last two Lori Holt things I am going to show you today are the two that I have in progress. I think it's only two. Let me pause and get those out. All right, so another one of her applique quilts that I have been working on is the Let's Bake applique sew along, and I have not worked on this one as well as I should have. I would have to say that this is 2017, so I started this in 2017. Ooh. Pieced blocks of Lori's are my very favorite, and after I'd done 3 applique quilts I needed a break, and so I had started this one, but I kind of needed a break from the applique, and so I've been really slow to get this one done. But is that not the cutest thing you've ever seen? I adore this quilt, so it will get finished, I promise. So this, the guide and everything you need was available on her blog. It probably still is there. And so I have been making that quilt. I have everything cut, and all the, I won't show them all to you, but all the remaining blocks that I have to sew, I have sorted. So like this bag is for the stove and the thing that says 350 degrees. This bag, I did just Ziploc bags. This is the pieces for the kitchen scale. And we have a bag with the cake stand, and this is, oh, that's the spatula. So very easy. Oh, there's another one. The oven mitts. So I've got them all organized, and so when I want to make one, all I have to do is pull out a bag and go to the instructions and make it. So I'm just a little slow on this one, but I have made a bunch of the blocks, and they're so cute. Oh, look at that one, a little milk bottle. So it also requires, you know, a lot of her applique will require just some simple hand embroidery. This I love. Look at this one. Oh my goodness. The egg carton. Some little ones here, some measuring spoons and cups. I haven't looked at these in a while. Measuring cup. Getting these out makes me want to work on it a little bit at a time. A jar of cocoa powder. Look at that. Oh, this is fun. I'm going to have to show you all these. I wasn't sure I was going to show you all. Oh, I did the Let's Bake. She shows you how to do the bias strips so you can make this. And it's, you know, it's imperfect, but I love it. Let's see. Rolling pin. They're so much fun to make. I love this. And this was a lot of embroidery, but it was easy. It's just simple backstitch. The little egg beater. 3 pies. Love them. One of the aprons here. I love that. I want an apron that looks just like that. Stand mixer. What a plug. Let's see, those might be all the ones I have done, and then I have stuff separated out for the other blocks as well. So y'all cheer me on and make me get this one done, because it's a super cute quilt and I really would like to have that done. The other quilt I have in progress, which I almost pulled out this week to work on, is my Farm Girl Vintage 2 from the Farm Girl Vintage book. And you can see here I have a lot of blocks done. I have a little schedule hanging back here. Well, there's my Let's Bake, and there's my Farm Girl Vintage 2. Those are the schedules, and I just kind of mark off what I've done. But you can see totally scrappy. I'll show you a few of these. That's the bumblebee. They're so cute. This is a combination of 6-inch and 12-inch blocks. Oh, so hard, but so cute. I promise you, if you work on sewing, especially beginning with some 12-inch blocks of Lori's, I have learned so much about piecing. Look at that rooster. I credit my knowledge of, I'm not even sure this one goes in here, but there you go. Oh, so cute. The pig. Oh my goodness. I love this one too. Look at those peas and carrots. And some more little blocks. So I have the great majority of these blocks done. Another apron. And those are my favorite kind to sew. And so I really need to work on that and get that done this year. So, is this the end? I know there's other Lori Holt quilts and little mini quilts hanging out there around my house that I've probably missed. But as you can see, I love, love, love making them. They're so much fun. And Lori shows you how to use all these things for just so many different projects. That's, again, so much of her genius is in that part as well. So again, you can get her books on Fat Quarter Shop. They're beautiful books, and like I said, I don't put mine away. I love them. And you can visit Lori on her blog, Be in My Bonnet. You can see her on YouTube and FlossTube and enjoy her. She is just wonderful, and she has given our quilting world just so much fun, so much beautiful work to do, and so I'm thankful for that. So I have no idea how long this video is going to turn out to be, but it's been fun. I love talking cross stitch. I love talking quilts, and so it's just a blessing to have you here with me this morning. And I will be quilting, and hopefully, I don't plan to do these quite as often as I do a floss tube. I try and do a floss tube every 2 weeks. But sometimes the quilting actually goes a little slower than the cross stitch does. So, but I should have some finished quilts to show you before long and some progress. So, I don't know when I'll be back, but it'll be lots of fun. And again, just thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate all your comments and questions. Always welcome. You can email me, or you can leave them in the comments below. And so I guess that's it for today. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And if you're having spring break here soon, I hope you have a lovely one. It has definitely warmed up here in Houston. I don't think it got below 70 last night, so that's a bad sign. But we survived the freeze. Now we're back into normal-ish spring temperatures, muggy and 70s. But I'll take it. I'll take it, because before you know it, it'll be 90s and muggy. So it is what it is. I'm not sure what I'd do in a cold climate. Okay, enough rambling. Thanks for looking at all my quilts and listening to me jabber about them all, because I love them. And go visit Lori, and go buy that First Farm Girl vintage book, because you won't regret it. It's so much fun. So have a blessed week and all that. And